didn't know at the time. We did get our wire back from that specific scenario. Never thought anything of it until just recently. I have come across an affidavit filed by the seller's attorney, who was actually holding on to all the original deeds. And Jacinda Walker, at the time she was working under Regal Legal Services here in Atlanta, according to the affidavit of this attorney, she had filed recorded 19 deeds. She did not have the original. She just had copies. The seller and the attorney of the seller had, which we'll go over the evidence, had clearly stated that they were not selling just 19. They were going to sell all 41, and all of them were to be done. There was no partial sale. And the affidavit and the attorney claims that these were fraudulently recorded. So this would have been our very first deal that we did with Jacinda, and it's very much linked to Byron and Marvin Fox, several of the other names. So that will show up. So this one's going to be a little bit of a longer one, but I'm going to go through just a portion of the evidence. I've got so much more, but just a portion of it here for this video. Where do I want to start? This one's a long one. All right, so Byron reached out to us. Let's see. This wasn't the very first date Byron reached out to us, but he reached out to us July 2023. Might have been a little bit earlier than that. But July 2023 starts sending us documents for the Baltic connection. And then we work with Jacinda Walker with Regal Legal Services and ultimately sent our wire. And I already told you everything a second ago. So let's go over a few things here. You know what? Let's start from the end and work our way backwards, maybe. So the affidavit that this attorney had filed, let's see here. So there's 8 affidavits. The first few pages of this affidavit are just describing each specific property, which you'll see here, October 3rd. These are when these deeds were recorded by Jacinda Walker for every single one of those different properties. Okay, so now starting on affidavit 4 is when this attorney starts adding brief synopsis, and then I've got tons and tons. There's like 191 pages of email evidence of all this, but they just try to keep it very concise here. They go through the dates of how much money was to be transferred, the purchase, etc. They go through all those emails. But what I ultimately want to kind of jump over to, I think, is in like, let's see. This will probably be good right around here in July. The reason why I'm going to stop here July 25th is if I go back to some of my evidence here, on July 25th, 2023, Jacinda receives the wire from our company, which was Wholesalers Transactional Funding at the time. She receives our money on this specific deal. Now, they had provided Jacinda Walker Amber Hayes. Amber Hayes is her assistant and is also many times is her notary. I will tell you right now for a fact that I have seen it in person, and I am fully aware of this on many, many, many other occasions, that Amber Hayes works remotely and she does not witness. Let me say that again. She does not witness folks' signatures. I have seen it firsthand. I've heard it from Jacinda. I've seen emails, and this is probably also one of those cases. But anyway, so Amber Hayes, her assistant, is also a notary. And so Jacinda confirms that she gets my wire, and that was on the 25th. Now, it took 2 days. There was a ton of emails. There was a lot of delays. There was a lot of excuses, a lot of problems. the typical BS. But at the time, we don't really know. She's claiming issues with a title. Something came up on title. She's claiming something came up on her bank. All the typical bullshit stuff. So anyway, finally, 2 days later, I did confirm that I did get my wire back. So now, again, I'm kind of starting from the end and working my way backwards. So as far as we know, the deeds that she shared with us were all legit, signed. The HUDs were signed. Everything was legit, which now looking back and now looking at the affidavit and talking to the attorney already and seeing stuff from the seller, that she was just using copies and not actually have the originals. And then she even held it for months before they finally recorded it. So anyway, so that's the reason why I went back here. So you can see the dates, 7/25, 15/22. She confirms I had sent my wire at 1:15 p.m. on 7/25. So here, July 25th, 2023, 9 a.m. So that was before I sent my wire. Let's see, sent closing attorney. So this is going to be the attorney and seller. Sent the closing attorney a follow-up email indicating that the original executed documents had not been overnight mailed to the closing attorney on the 24th, as the FedEx cutoff time for shipping was missed on Monday evening. And then they reference an email that they had as evidence. Let's see. Okay. Later in the afternoon, now this is almost 5 p.m., 4:59 p.m. on July 25th, 2023. The deponent emailed closing attorney stating, we await all of the items that were requested. I will not be able to send out our FedEx of the executed documents until we have requested items from your office. And so they're still holding on to the original deeds, the original HUD statements and stuff like that. This is what the seller's attorney is holding on to. So this is the following day. Now, this is the time where I'm getting the runaround about why I haven't got my wire and everything back. So now they are emailing the closing attorney, which is Jacinda Walker. Let's see here. What else did they say? Okay. So now this is the 28th. This is Friday, July 28, 2023 at 10:33 a.m. This is the day after I have now received my wire back from Jacinda. So as far as we know at that point in time, all the 19 deeds were recorded. The HUD statement was signed. She stated that the seller was signing from Albany, so there was going to be overnighting. It was going to take a little bit, so we're trying to give us these excuses, but somewhat seem legit too if they're signing out of the county or so. So let's go to Affidavit 6 now. Now it's, let's see, now we're getting into the following month. Now we're getting into August. Now I'm not aware of any of this stuff. I pulled all this from public record. All this is found on GSCCCA, everything that I'm getting right here. Let's see here. On September 6, 2023 at 5:22 p.m., the deponent again emailed Jacinda Walker, which is the closing attorney here, seeking a status update for completion of the second closing. In that email, the deponent reiterated, as you know, I still have the executed seller closing docs and I'm holding them for delivery to you to be held in escrow when you can confirm that the second loan has taken place. So they're still stating that, hey, I'm going to hold on to everything. You might already have some docs signed, but you can't record anything, and I've got the originals. Let's see here. I'm just trying to read some of this as I go here, too. I'm sure you're reading it. Now, on October 12th, 2023 at 1:35, the closing attorney, which was Jacinda Walker, emailed Merritt, which is the attorney for the seller here that's drafting up this affidavit. So Jacinda emailed that attorney indicating that the 19 properties were closed. And then in quotes, there is no refund for those properties. I'm now having to record because the lender is demanding, end quote. About 30 minutes later, October 12, 2023, Closing attorney emailed deponent and others and stated, as you are all aware, we are well beyond the initial 5-day period required for these properties. I'm having to record the loans and deeds at the bequest of the lender in the transaction. We are too far, and have been, to unravel the transaction. I but I think she meant to say I paid the insurance, and Amber, which is Amber Hayes, her assistant, is moving forward with taxes that were the responsibility at the time of closing. I am requesting partial payoff for these properties at the time of close. So back when we signed those documents and the first lender funded. So she's referring back to July 25th, whenever my funds hit. So now the attorney, the seller's attorney, emails Jacinda October 12th, 2023 at 2:15 and states, you are not, in bold, not authorized to record any documents provided by the seller. In fact, I am in possession of the original executed limited warranty deed from the properties that were being sold to the purchaser. The originals have not been released to you for recording. If you are in possession of a copy of that deed, you are not authorized to record that copy. The seller has been crystal clear from the very beginning that this was a sale of all of the properties, and the seller was not a partial sale of property to the purchaser. So let's see here. And then again, there was another email later on that day, October 12, 2023 at 3:16 p.m. Deponent reiterated that no authorization has been provided by deponent to partially close, disperse, and record with respect to the 19 properties. Deponent reminded closing attorney that the original executed limited warranty deed from Echo to Baltic remains in the possession of deponent and has not been delivered to the closing attorney, i.e. Jacinda Walker. Then let's see here. Okay, so now let's see here. There was escrow conditions agreed to by the closing attorney, specifically stated that the closing documents would be, quote unquote, held in escrow by your firm until you have written authorization from me to release the documents which have been executed by the seller and to fully disperse the seller proceeds in accordance with the 2 final closing statements. Okay, let's go to Affidavit 8. Now, this is where it's proving that this is... all right, let's see. Let's go to the bottom of this one. Okay, so now number 26 in this affidavit, page 7, it says, although neither Echo or deponent have delivered the original executed limited warranty deed to closing attorney, which is Jacinda Walker, and further, although deponent has never authorized any release of the limited warranty deed or any other documents from escrow, closing attorney has unilaterally elected to file 19 copies of the limited warranty deed into the deed records of Terrell County. These recorded copies of the limited warranty deed are set out in the caption of this affidavit here and above. The 19 deeds were duplicated by the closing attorney without permission from the scanned copy of the limited warranty deed, which deponent had emailed to the closing attorney. Closing attorney apparently selected the legal descriptions for each of the 19 properties to attach to the 19 copies of the limited warranty deed, and this selection was likewise completed without any authorization or consent by Echo, Merit, or deponent. This affidavit is provided by the undersigned deponent to evidence that the 19 recorded copies of limited warranty deeds from Echo to Baltic were recorded without delivery of the limited warranty deed by Echo to Baltic, and the recording of these copies were done in violation of the escrow conditions accepted by the closing attorney. These recorded deeds are of no force or effect and do not convey any title to the respective properties to Baltic. Title to all 19 properties remain vested in Echo. Any further recordings made by the closing attorney or Baltic in connection with any properties owned by Echo are being recorded without permission, consent, or authorization. Then it says, as of the date of this affidavit, closing attorney has not dispersed any sale proceeds to Echo and has not paid off any of the outstanding mortgages that Echo had given to various lenders in connection with these properties. And it was signed by Wallace D. Bonner. Yeah, so that's those affidavits. So now let's get into, now that you know exactly what this attorney has, this attorney and the seller has all stated. We've got tons more evidence, but we've been able to show just a little bit of it. And of course, this affidavit. Now let's maybe get into a few other pieces here. Let's see what's going to matter. So here's going to be something that's rather interesting for you guys. Operating agreement. And I'm going to kind of bounce around because I don't want to spend minutes over here trying to figure out what I should click on next. Operating agreement. Okay. So this operating agreement for the Baltic connection, if it'll pop up. Okay. So you will notice that it says the name of the company shall be the Baltic Connection LLC. And that's fine. What I want to show you as far as dates, probably. Just scroll to the very bottom of this. Just get to the bottom. So Marvin Fox signed and agreed May 6, 2022. Marvin Fox, the capital contribution, $10,000. May 2022 again. He's 100% owner, supposedly. So now let's get into, let me remove some of these affidavits here. Don't need these anymore. In case it's slowing us down. I think this is the same operating agreement here I'm looking at. Yep, same operating agreement. Okay, let's get back into that file folder. So EIN. Well, if it'll show up. Oh, it's taking so long. There we go. So the EIN here, notice it just says Baltic Connections. Doesn't say the Baltic Connection. So completely different here. The date, let me see here. The date of this, 6/15/2022. So if they started a new LLC just called Baltic Connection, most likely it was to confuse everybody. Still put Marvin Fox, still put the address, but instead of the Baltic Connection, just left Baltic Connection. So that way, this is what they're providing, folks. And this date is after when this company was actually created. Let's go to, and I'm going to pause it for a second here because I got to send something over so I can share with you guys. Okay, now I open it back up. So where is it? Okay, so here we go. So this business was actually created in March 8th, 2022. So March 8th, 2022 is definitely not, whatever this is, definitely not June 15th, 2022 when Baltic Connection was created. So now let's go back to some of these amended registrations. So we'll see here, 2023, 12/15. So December 2023, we have an amended registration. Let's see, we also have the first registration. This is number 2. So let's look at the first registration, 12/15/2023. Marvin Fox there. You know, let me go. I need to go back a little bit earlier. 2022. There we go. That's what I was missing. Once it wants to pop up. Okay. So when it originally was created, 5/19/2022, there was a Willie Buccanees is the authorized signer, owner, agent of the Baltic connection. And then all this stuff started going down on this deal with Byron and everybody in 2023, I believe. So let's see here. Here's the annual registration now, just 7 months later after it was created. This is January 23rd, 2023. Let's take a look at this one. I guess I have way too many things going on in the background, plus recording my screen, so my apologies. Now, all of a sudden here, January 23, 2023, now we still have Willie as the registered agent. And the reason why is because there's operating agreements, there's other forms, there's bank accounts that'll still have Willie Buckneys on it. But now they've added Marvin Fox as a signature and agent name, Marvin Fox again. So that was January 23, 2023. Let's see here. Amended registration. All these amended registrations are going to be Marvin Fox, and then just kind of bouncing around to Terry, and then they eventually bring in another name who we know. Oh, I'll just wait. Then we bring in another name, Dexter Weems. I'll just let you guys do some research on that one. I'll bring up, maybe make some more videos on that name. But of course, this is much later in 2023. This is now, I think they're about to start going into litigation on that specific property. They eventually let it go into dissolution, just let it dissolve because they know they're into fraud and stuff here. All right, so let's go back to my files. Went through all these affidavits already. Showed the EIN, showed the operating agreement, went through the registration. Now let's go over some of these emails here with Jacinda Walker and Amber Hayes. So Byron sends emails. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I'll go over that. So he sends, you can see here, his email, brain729@gmail.com. He shows the operating agreement that I showed you, Marvin Fox driver's license, and then the EIN for Baltic. So that was the files that I had just went over and shared with you. What I want to show you now is this here. Back on January 23rd, 2023, January 23rd, right here, Baltic Connection annual registration, January 23rd, 2023. And that, let's see, matches right here from eCorp at no reply at sos.ga.gov, which is correct. This date, January 23rd, 2023 at 7:55 p.m. to the Baltic Connection at gmail.com, which I believe that this was another forged email that Marvin and Byron had created. And then here we go, marvinfox841 at aol.com, and then a circa property mgmt at gmail.com. And then another one of Byron's emails that he doesn't use very often, or didn't see for a while, don't see it now very often, but BE-Rains, RAINS at live.com. So it's BE, which is Byron Ellis, Rains. Again, that's not even his real name. It's Byron Rainer. So now they just put in this Alpha Louise, whoever they just claimed is the one filing this kind of stuff, because he never wants to link it back to his name. So now it says, Dear Alpha Louise, this is a confirmation that the annual registration for the Baltic Connection LLC has been successfully processed by the Georgia Secretary of State's office on 1/23/2023 at 7:55 p.m. The filed annual registration is attached to this email, and here's the attached. Let's see, once it pops up. And there we go, right here. Willie Buckney's Marvin Fox. So this is what Byron and Marvin just created. This person probably had no clue. So 1/23/2023 at 7:55 p.m. shows Secretary of State with the annual change adding Marvin, and ever since then, Marvin's been on that one. So let's go back to our files, see if there's anything else I'm missing here. 721. Well, these emails right here where it says seller is asking to correct emails, or correct the property HUDs. This is all from the actual seller, the actual owner of the property. These are just some of the evidence that we've been able to find on GSCCCA, the 191 pages that are linked to those 8 pages of affidavits from that Merritt attorney. And here is Jacinda confirming the conditions for the attorney before recording. Let's open that one up and see what it says. All right, so, okay, well, I'd have to find the email just before this, but here's an email from Jacinda Walker to the attorney, Wallace Bonner, and she states here, I've already sent my approval. Please send the documents. I know that refers back to just an email just before. Let's see if that's the same one. I think that might be the same file. Looks like it's the same file. Oh, no, here we go. Okay. So, okay. So from Wallace Bonner, he emails Jacinda Walker right here, Jacinda at regallegalllc.com, and Amber Hayes, which was closings at regallegallllc.com, and then Shaw Merritt, which is, I guess I made a mistake earlier when I said Merritt was the attorney. Shaw Merritt, I believe, is the seller, and Wallace Bonner is the attorney. So Wallace emails Jacinda Walker and says, Jacinda, I have not received an acknowledgement agreeing to our conditions. They are as follows. In the interest of getting this closed, and with the deadline that you have indicated due to the buyer's lender, we are proceeding to close, but with the following stipulations and conditions. Shaw will sign the attached limited warranty deed instead of the general warranty deed that was provided. This is per the provisions of the PSA, which is purchase and sale agreement. You will need to update your payoff numbers as they are incorrect. Shaw has made additional payments to these lenders, and he does not want to overpay them on the payoffs. He wants the 1031 agent to receive as much of his proceeds as possible. We can slip sheet in updated HUD pages showing the correct numbers. On the owner's affidavit, we will make a pen and ink revision to indicate that these properties are subject to unrecorded residential leases. I will have to approve the final legal descriptions to be added to the limited warranty deed and the deed to secure debt. Per my earlier email, I will have to see the buyer's signed promissory note, deed, secure debt, and guarantee. I will require confirmation that you are in possession of these signed documents from the buyer and prepared to record them upon breaking escrow. I feel like there's another page to this right here. And then he sends another email here. It says, please confirm that you are in agreement and will comply with the conditions below, and I will send a scan of the signed seller documents. We have missed the FedEx deadline for sending you it says orange today, but I think he meant the originals today. And so she obviously agreed to that here in her next email at 5:37 p.m. that says, I have already sent my approval. Please send the documents. So let's go back to here on 7/26. Let's see here. This was part of the evidence that matches the affidavit. So now this was Attorney Wallace Bonner emailing Jacinda and Amber. And he says, Jacinda and Amber, below is the email I sent on Monday regarding the legal descriptions. I will need the complete set of legal descriptions for the 41 properties to review and approve. The final legal descriptions will be added to the limited warranty deed and to the deed to secure debt back to Echo. When we have this completed, I will overnight mail the signed seller documents to you to be held in escrow pending final approval for funding and release of the seller documents. Let's see. So he's still stating here that they haven't even been sent, and Jacinda's already got my money. And now it was about, I think, 2 days after that, on the 28th or so, when I finally got my wire back. No, the 27th. So here it is on the 26th. The seller's attorney is still holding on to the originals. Yet now we know already, and we've seen that these docs were signed and she was using a copy. We get our money back. And then later they held on to it until October. And then they finally recorded those deeds. And then in the affidavit, it confirms that she still had not had the originals in October and fraudulently recorded those deeds. I think that's enough for right now on this one. If I have more info I need to share, I will. Again, this is all public information. You can all find this. You can find all of this on GSCCCA.